I'm happy that you're here in this Miracle Recap. This is first edition of the Miracle Recap, and it's a lovely way to to go through the lessons that we did so far. So 1st of January 2025, starting the lessons again. Lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. Lesson 2, and today lesson, what is it, 6? Yes, I'm upset because I see something that is not there. That's the lesson of today. And so how are we going to do this with the Miracle Recap? Well, this depends, of course, on how fast we can go, what can be offered, what happens during the meetings. Like, you can ask questions if you want. You can do all kinds of things. Like, there's a chat in the Zoom. There's, of course, a moment in which we, say the last 15 minutes or so, we can take a look at, okay, this, I need to know more about this. Let me introduce the workbook of A Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is a book with three main books. One of them is the textbook, one of them is the workbook, and one of them is the teacher's manual. And all of them are for you to use. You don't have to be a teacher in order to read the manual for teachers. Now it's like everything is already yours. You're entitled to all of it. You don't need to see yourself in a certain way in order to begin or to read it or to let it come to you. So that's really low profile, you could say. And now A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is given. It came from. It is given, it's received by Helen Schuckman and Bill Tedford. They received it in some kind of way, like they could write it down. They got messages, they wrote it down, they typed it out, they shared the manuscripts, and it was edited into a book, and they were busy with it for probably 8 years. And so this is this after the textbook, which were like 31 chapters, which we're going to start on Wednesday looking at them. The 31 chapters, when they were ready, Helen thought like, well, okay, this is it. Wonderful. What a great book. 31 chapters of like, wow, beautiful, beautiful spiritual scripture. From a voice out of time, from Jesus Christ of Nazareth's voice out of time. And then a couple of weeks later, here's the textbook of A Course in Miracles. So there was a continuation. And this textbook is like, there are exercises in there. 365 lessons. For every day there's one. In 1 year, that's the whole curriculum, you could say. It's 1 year. You start whenever you start, but we started the 1st of January. Okay, so now every day there's a new lesson, and we're going to follow those in a very specific way. Of course, you can do them yourself. That's your own responsibility. You commit yourself to, okay, at least I'm going through the first 50 lessons and see what happens. And maybe it gets me, then I continue, and that would be lovely. So what is the necessity? Why would you use A Course in Miracles, the workbook? Why would you use it even? Because, yeah, you can do all kinds of things. But here, why do you specifically use this? Now, when you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, the lessons make a lot of sense. Because, in fact, it is a systematic way to come to realize, in fact, to come to know what is keeping you from being fully happy. In fact, like you are coming in touch, in fact, with obstacles that you have put right there. And these obstacles that you have put right there keep you away from experiencing love. And love is what you are. So in fact, you're You're keeping yourself away from yourself. Now in these 365 lessons, that's going to change. I can assure you that. Like, I'm going through the book, doing these lessons, I've seen so many changes for everyone who started using it. And so I'm not promoting it, but I'm just saying is like, this is a very systematic way to become aware of the obstacles you have put in the way of experiencing love and extension and happiness and joy without an opposite, without a real reason. In other words, A Course in Miracles is not to get a better understanding. It's not a self-help book, as it says in many reviews. No, it's not a self-help book. No, this is a whole different kind of thing, because love is already what you are. You were created that way. And one of the lessons will certainly remind you of that. Like many of the lessons will remind you of that. Basically, every lesson will remind you of that. And that you are as you were created, that you are the love that created you. And that's, of course, you're going to remember that. So that's, in that sense, it is not a change, but it brings you to your essence, to what is real about you, to that what is of you. And of course, you've built your own identity, you've built your idea about yourself, you've built your image of yourself, you're using that as in like, this is what I am, this is what I see myself to be, maybe in 10 years, maybe yesterday. I have a history, I have a family, I have a this and I have that. All kinds of ingredients to confirm I'm a human being living on planet Earth. Well, here is A Course in Miracles workbook, telling you everything that you see and that you have thought about yourself is not what it appears to be. It is not what you think you are. It cannot be what you are, because in fact God created you perfect. Now I don't know how that is for you, but my life as a human being wasn't really perfect. There were some real painful things happening, and the way that I saw myself was far from complete. It's like, no, it's a lot of work to put myself together all the time, and it's getting painful too. And I have thoughts that I hold about myself that I'm not so happy with. I have a past dragging with me that keeps reminding me I was wrong in the past and something happened that hurt many people. So I walk around with a lot of pain, like almost like a cross on my back. Now here in the text and in the workbook where we're taking a look at, in the workbook you in fact do exercises to release that, to release your ideas about yourself, to come to know yourself really. It's like, well, that's not what it appears to be. Like today's lesson, I'm upset because I'm seeing something that is not there. So the world that I thought was there isn't there. It isn't there. It is just made up by me, looking at it, giving it value, holding on to it, thinking that it's determining who I am, letting it tell me what I am. And that's not so. That's not what it is. And that's not true. Now, releasing those ideas seems to be like a hard job. That's why this is so systematically built up. Like every day there's a little bit of exposure to your true nature, you could say, a little bit of exposure for maybe 2 minutes a day or maybe 3. It's like, that's all. You read through the lesson, you do the exercise, and there it is. Like, okay, nothing I see means anything. Lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. Whether it's far away or close by, it really doesn't matter. Whether it's red or blue or big or small, that also doesn't matter. It's alive or not alive, it doesn't matter either. Like all these differences that I've made don't even matter. Now, how are we going to do this? It's like, how will that continue? Well, don't don't be concerned with it. So it's one day at a time, one lesson at a time, step by step by step by step. And this is like slowing down, in fact. You're slowing yourself down. As a human being, you were accustomed to pushing and to making it work and going for it, and on and on and on. Here it is like, no, just one exercise a day. It's effortless, basically. You just have to do it. That's all. So that's what it will tell you in the introduction too. Like it's just a matter of doing those exercises. Not really difficult. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to, none of these things. You certainly don't have to understand what's going on. You don't have to, defend yourself with it either. It's like, no. The lessons are just there for you. Follow the instruction, do what it says, and not more. One lesson a day is enough. Don't do 2 lessons a day, just one lesson a day. This is more like you're going to do this, you're coming back to it. Tomorrow there's another lesson. A new day, a new lesson. Every day, new lesson. And it will build up in time that you will dedicate to it, in intensity, in depth, in honesty. Like there's a real beautiful succession that is literally tailor-made for you to release the identity of someone that you are not. What stays with you is what you always have been. That's unchangeable. It is a given. So in that sense, you finally get in touch with that. That's really what the lessons do, fundamentally. Now we deal here, and that's the book, Course in Miracles. We deal here with a book that is not understandable. It is miraculous. It's a miracle, Course in Miracles. It's not a course in reasoning. It's not a course in comparison. It's not a course in becoming the best scriptural who knows what. It's not about comparing or competing. It's not about analyzing. It's not about a lot of things. Like, no, this is a Course in Miracles. Now, what is a miracle? What are miracle principles? Well, I'm going to share with you some expressions, some miracle principles, to give you an idea. Like, if I could give you a definition of a miracle, it wouldn't be what it is, because it's literally not definable. But you can certainly experience it. See how different that already is in reading a regular book. Like, this is not a regular book. This is not even a book. This is literally an invitation to a new experience. Miracle principles. Miracles restore the mind to its fullness. Miracles restore the mind to its fullness. By atoning for lack, they establish perfect protection. The spirit's strength leaves no room for intrusion. Now, this is in fact a description of something that is very comforting on a very deep level for you. Miracles restore the mind to its fullness. By atoning for lack, they establish perfect protection. The spirit's strength leaves no room for intrusions. So in other words, you're completely, you allow the miracle to happen to you. All ideas about lack and limitation, in fact, disappear. They are being undone. The spirit's strength leaves no room for intrusions. It's like literally you get in touch with the deep power that is within you, that is the spirit within you. And in that you're completely protected. Miracles are expressions of love, but they might not always have observable effects. But they are expressions of love. Okay, so these are just two of the miracle principles, like I said, it is not a definition. No, they tell you a little bit of what they are and what they do. Here's one do. Miracles do restore the mind to its fullness. Miracles are expressions of love. Okay, let's see if we have more. Miracles are examples of right thinking, aligning your perceptions with truth as God created it. A miracle is a correction introduced into false thinking by me, is what Jesus says. It acts as a catalyst, breaking up erroneous perception and reorganizing it properly. This places you under the atonement principle where perception is healed. Until this has occurred, knowledge of the divine order is impossible. Okay, so that goes already pretty far. And we want to keep it simple in that sense. But this information that's being shared is something that does something with you. Like you will eventually have a recognition with it. Like not maybe directly observable effects, but you have a recognition with this. You always, like in my case, I always wanted to know this, what I read. I wanted to know how a little bit like, how does this work, or what is it exactly? So there's an adventurous part in it of a discovery of yourself that gives you, say, new input, and it shows you how things work in the sense of what already is and how to return to it. And that's really great, because it's like the dead-end road called human destiny. It's a dead-end road. You know already where you will end up. When you are born as a human being, you know where you end up. Almost like when you were probably 7 years old, you already are conscious of the fact that this is a temporal journey that you do on planet Earth, and then you will pass over, like you will die, and then who knows what happens. Now that is a timeline that you grew up with as a human being, but this has nothing to do with that. So this is beyond that time frame that you're so used to, and that is what's taking place here. So it always brings you right back here, in fact, to this moment of recognition. It's like God creates, and that's happening right now. It is not something that will happen in the future. It is not something that happened yesterday. It's like no, it's right here, and it's happening in this instant. So the miracle part of this is then, in fact, your possibility to return back to a deep sense of love. By releasing some ideas about yourself, you come to a deep sense of love and connection. And basically that is the communication that is already yours, that is always available. And that literally the only thing was that you had to ask for it again. It's like, yeah, I want to experience a miracle. I want to experience the love of God. I want to experience, in fact, that I'm not separate from everything that is. I want to come deeply in touch with that. Now here's A Course in Miracles. Like, these lessons are literally tailor-made specifically for you, so that can return. Like literally that memory returns, and you learn that it is happening in this instant. It is always available, and it will always be now to experience it. So that's really wonderful. Now these miracle principles, you can find them in the textbook. They're not in the workbook, but I use them here as an illustration of what does a miracle do and what is a miracle. So that's to bring that to some clarity, you could say. Now we're going to read a little bit from the introduction to the workbook, because there's a lot in there that I've already said, but also that is essential to read. Now here you see Introduction to A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. A theoretical foundation such as the text provides is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. And that's what the textbook is for. And here now we are reading the introduction to the workbook. So here we continue. The exercises are very simple. They do not require a great deal of time. And it does not matter where you do them. They need no preparation. The training period is 1 year. And okay, so the purpose of the workbook, continuing with the fourth paragraph, the purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. The exercises are planned to help you generalize the lessons so that you will understand that each of them is equally applicable to everyone and everything you see. Now here's also an important information here. Transfer of training in true perception does not proceed as transfer of the training in the world. If true perception has been achieved in connection with any person, situation or event, total transfer to everyone and everything is certain. On the other hand, one exception held apart from true perception makes its accomplishments anywhere impossible. All right, so getting myself out of this. Okay, so what did we just hear, in fact? It's like if you say you're opening your perception, you're opening your eyes, in fact. You're accustomed to a world, but now you're going to take a look at it in a whole different way. In fact, free from your beliefs, free from your preconceptions, from your ideas, basically. For what you think time is for, what you think this world is for who you think you are. Like all of that is undone in one instant. Now you look at everything in a whole new light, and a light that literally goes beyond what you see, goes beyond the forms that you're so accustomed to. This is called vision. Like you start to look with vision, and vision, once you have in fact perceived one thing, one person, one idea with vision, literally you start to see it everywhere. You start to recognize that everywhere, not just this one thing. Like if we train ourselves in the world, you for instance learn to speak a different language. Now you learn a couple of words. It is not that if you learn one word that you can speak the language. Now here it is. If I have a recognition, if I see with vision one thing completely, literally I can see everything completely. It is the same story, in fact. So this is totally different than learning in the world. Now here it says, like, if I look with vision, I see everything with vision. But if I make one exception, thinking that something is separate from me, I'm back into the world, you could say. I'm back into thinking in fragmentation, in separation, thinking in opposites, a dualistic way of looking at everything. Like, of course, you can recover from that. That can be restored. So this, in fact, this training that we do is to bring you back to Christ vision, as we call it, like to vision, spiritual vision, looking with the spiritual eye, to say it in another way. Like, in fact, you learn to come back to that quicker and quicker and quicker, because the moment that you make an exception in seeing it as whole, what happens is that you not feeling too well, like you lose your peace, you start to feel unsettled, you start to feel separated, and something has gone wrong, like this, you know. It's like that's what you experience. So that becomes a real important signal. As a human being, you try to adjust to the unsettling ideas. You try to adjust to the discomfort that you're feeling. You distract yourself from it and all this stuff. But here, it's like, no, no, no. We're actually picking up the book and actually doing an exercise to get back on track, so to speak, so that vision can open up again and I see things as whole again. Now, this becomes a practice. By using the workbook, that becomes a practice that is, absolutely essential. You can imagine why. Like the whole world is telling you, oh, here, do this, do that, be distracted by this. Oh, get your mind off it and do something else, or find this to enjoy yourself. Or, it's like it's a total chaos in that sense. With the Course in Miracles workbooks, the exercises that we're doing, that you do on a daily basis, are your protection, you could say. They bring you back to, okay, this is my purpose. I want to experience peace. I want to come back to love. I want to experience my connectedness. I don't want to experience, say, separation and fragmentation or chaos. No, I want to come back to this. And this is my dedication. I'm doing my exercises to return back to love all the time, because that's happening right here. That's the only thing that's real about me, and here we are. So essential, and it works very well. And this is something you'll see in the exercises too. If something works really well, you're also not sure what it's going to do with you. So that comes with certain feelings of uncertainty at the same time too. Or maybe even resistance to doing it. You see how well it works. Now you might be afraid to lose something, like your human idea about yourself, or your human habits, or your who knows what. Like, all this doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You will return back to paths of learning, is what it says in the Course. Like, you always come back to this. So once you get started with it, it will return. It will come back into your memory, because in fact it is the direct support that you have in order to come to realize who is it that I am. I am as God created me. I am the love that created me. And there's no separation going on. Like, I recognize in my brother my savior. I recognize in my brother my dearest friend. And that's not going to be changed by anything. In fact, that is what is true about it. So I can always return back to that. That was the idea of, say, true perception. Now the idea of regular perception, human perception, you could say. It's like, okay, I use my eyes for that. I see out there a world, an objective world with objects separate and apart. Here's my phone. Here's my glasses. And they're separate from me. I can put them on the table and gone they are. They're somewhere else. So my perception is based on a three-dimensional idea about myself. In fact, it doesn't tell me really anything about myself. It is just that I've become like accustomed and familiar with, for instance, my phone. Like, what would I do without it is what I'm telling you. And then it's like, well, I value it. That's why I see it. If I didn't value it, why would I care about it? Why would I even use it? I probably don't have a necessity for it then, if I don't value it. So apparently I'm valuing it, that's why I'm seeing it, and that's why I'm using it. The same with glasses. Maybe I don't need glasses. I use them to read and all this, but who knows, what am I supposed to read? Or, like, I don't even have to make these considerations. It's just that I'm saying, like, everything that's surrounding you, this is what you learn in the lessons too. Everything that's surrounding you, you literally see that because you value it. Now, in these exercises, what we're going to do is actually saying, like, that's a meaningless idea. That's a meaningless idea. This is a meaningless idea. I've given it value, but it is in fact a meaningless idea. It seems to be an object separate from me. But am I really seeing it is really the question. Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And of course that isn't so. I don't really see it for what it is. I don't really see anything, in fact, because I'm literally blinded by my ideas about things. Now here, this is where the workbook comes in. Like you literally made everything the way that you wanted it. And in fact, for a very specific reason. And we're going to find out what that reason is. First, before we do that, and this will be later lessons. So now we're up to 6, in fact. I'm going to read to you the review of the first. So you can download this 20-minute book, and I'll make it a little bigger. So, like we said, you don't have to believe it, you don't have to do this and don't have to do that with it. It's like, just, if you feel like reading it, you're welcome to join to do that. So, 1 lesson each, 1 review each. And the question then is, who wants to start? If you want to start, open up your microphone and just start reading it.
Nothing I see means anything. The reason this is so is that I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. It is necessary that I recognize this, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of vision. I must let go by realizing it has no meaning, so that vision may take its place.
I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. I have judged everything I look upon. And it is this, and only this, I see. This is not vision. It is merely an illusion of reality, because my judgments have been made quite apart from reality. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgments because I want to see. My judgments have hurt me, and I do not want to see according to them.
I do not understand anything I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There's no sense in trying to understand it. But there's every reason to let it go and make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one I made before?
Ces pensées ne signifient rien. Les pensées dont j'ai conscience ne signifient rien parce que j'essaie de penser sans Dieu. Ce que j'appelle mes pensées ne sont pas mes pensées réelles. Mes pensées réelles sont les pensées que je pense avec Dieu. Je n'en ai pas conscience parce que j'ai fait mes pensées qu'elles prennent leur place. Je suis désireux de reconnaître que mes pensées ne signifient rien et d'en lâcher prise. Je choisis qu'elles soient remplacées par ce qu'elles étaient censées remplacer. Mes pensées sont insignifiantes, mais toute la création réside dans les pensées que je pense avec Dieu.
I am never upset for the reason I think. I am never upset for the reason I think because I am constantly trying to justify my thoughts. I am constantly trying to make them true. I make all things my enemies so that my anger is justified and my attacks are warranted. I have not realized how much I have misused everything I see by assigning this role to it. I have done this to defend a thought system that has hurt me and that I no longer want. I'm willing to let it go.
Thank you. So this is today's lesson. I'm upset because I see what is not there. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I'm upset, it is always because I've replaced reality with illusions I made up. The illusions are upsetting because I've given them reality and thus regard reality as an illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by this confusion of mine. I'm always upset by nothing. Coming back for just a moment. Oh, I had my microphone open. All right. So I come back just for a moment. So here you see, like, this is not a regular exercise book or anything. It's like, no, this has everything to do with returning back to perfect peace. That you have to keep in mind. It's like, this is my practice to return to perfect peace. All the lessons are literally focused on that. Literally bring me back to a deep sense of comfort, a deep sense of, it had no effects. Whatever I thought was going on, that's not it. I'm so happy. Now, this resonance that it has with you internally is also resonating with you physically, socially, all kinds of ways. Like literally this goes into your whole system, you could say. This absolutely has an effect on all of it. Speaking from deep experience with it, it's like so beautiful. You can imagine how much healthier it is for you to come back to perfect peace. For your physical system, for instance, and temporarily you seem to be walking around in a physical system. Now here is the comfort and the healing that can take place by letting yourself literally being immersed in perfect peace. That's really what a miracle is. It's like it brings you back to a deep sense of, I'm at home. I'm at home. Oh, thank you, God. Thank you so much. Like you suddenly remember that you're not separated at all, that all of that has not occurred, and that all of that did not have any effect. So that's why it's so incredibly comforting to expose yourself to this and use it actively during your day, during, like, wherever you are. You can always, like, with your phone or whatever, you scrabble your you write down the lesson of the day, the title or whatever. You take that with you and you pull it out of your pocket and start reading it whenever you feel that something went wrong, so to speak, when something is disturbed, when you feel not at ease, or when you all these things. This is then not to as a self-help. No, this is really, let's not forget to return back to love. Let's not forget to return back to perfect peace. It will be the only place where I completely feel at home and where I can breathe, where I feel the space and the love that I need to be myself. Now this is in fact the training. And all these lessons that we have read, you could see that in the review. Like we read the reviews, and the review lessons actually start to happen in lesson 51. So first you do the lessons 1 to 50 in 50 days. Then on the 51st day, there's the review. You start to use the review. But for me, I always think they're very helpful to be read, to give you an insight of how can I see this lesson. Okay, I'm right in the middle of this lesson 6 today. I'm upset because I see something that's not there. Now, wow, I do that lesson. It's confusing me, like big time. It has a lot of impact on how I see at this moment. And now I read the review too, and I actually read something that is very comforting to me. And that is also helpful to hear that. So this is how I use the 20-minute book, the review lessons, to give you insight in the lesson that is actually being done today. But that's completely up to you, of course. You discover for yourself what works the best for you. Like, at least do the lesson, and then tomorrow lesson 7. Like, I see only the past. That's lesson 7. And so that will be your day filled with that. Some days will be so perfect that you say, like, yoo-hoo, I always wanted to do this lesson. And then the next day it might be a lesson that you have no affinity with whatsoever. Does it matter? No, it does not. Do you understand what's going on? No. Do you understand anyway what's going on in your life? No. Is it understandable? No, not at all. That is not of your concern. So all of this brings you just back to your deep sense of peace that is within you, that's always with you. You return back to that. Every moment you have a possibility to let that come in. And that's a huge training. That's a very deep training that you do with yourself, in fact. So this was the short introduction that I wanted to give in the first 6 lessons. So next time we meet on next Monday, we go from 7 till whatever, 14, something like this. And I hope that I'm going to see you there too. So thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. And yes, in this meeting, we have a moment of questions and answers, if there are any questions. Otherwise, we just enjoy the silence, or however that's going to look.